And then obviously we had a very public situation with our portal signee that signed with Clemson, moved to Clemson, went to class, trained, and now he's no longer at Clemson. So I know y'all have heard a lot about that. My objective today is to just provide a little bit of clarity, a little bit of context as to what happened with this situation. So first of all, we did everything right. Kid goes in the portal. We reach out. He's interested. Comes and visits Clemson. Says this is where he wants to go, and we sign him. He moves to Clemson. Again, rents an apartment, buys a car, goes to class for a week, trains, team meeting, position meetings, writes out his goals for the semester, like full blown, like let's Clemson student, like we're rolling, and so and then all of a sudden. Not here anymore. So how did we get here? Well, Sunday, January the 4th, Jordan Sorrells had his first conversation with Ryan Williams, the agent. And on Monday, January the 5th, at 8:30, Luke Farrelly, he showed up here at Clemson with his dad for his official visit. And they came over to my house a little after 9 or so that night. Okay? So I had a chance to meet with them for the very first time. And it was just to get to know each other right there at the beginning, and had a good conversation. My first question was, hey, how was? They had just come in off of Ole Miss visit. I said, how was the visit? And his dad said, not good. Said it was a mess. It was unorganized. It was chaos. The building was a mess. Nobody knew what was going on, and I was like, well. Look forward to y'all seeing Clemson tomorrow. We're going to be organized and structured, and so just kind of had some chit chat that night, and then tomorrow, the next day on Tuesday, January the 6th, he had his visit on campus at 2:30. Ryan Williams, the agent, Luke, the player, and his dad, they verbally accepted the terms of the offer, and they made a commitment to Clemson. Everybody high-fived it. Everybody's excited. We got our linebacker. We were going to take one linebacker. We're going to take one. So we got our linebacker. We canceled all the visits of all the other guys that we were going to schedule to come in throughout the rest of the week because we're done. We were taking one. We've made our commitment. He signed. All right, so or the next day, Wednesday, that was 2:30. At 3:15, Luke and his dad left town to go back to California. Then Wednesday, January 7th at 11 a.m., Luke signed his financial aid agreement with Clemson. And then Sunday, January the 11th, he moved to Clemson. Again, rents an apartment, buys a car, goes to class for a week. He's in training for a week, team meeting, position meeting, all that. All right, and then on Wednesday, January 14th at 9:49 p.m., the agent, Ryan Williams, calls Jordan Sorrells. And during that conversation, Ryan conveys that Ole Miss has been coming hard after Luke. Sorrells confirmed, he went with the agent, he said, are you talking about the same Luke that's been enrolled at Clemson, that's been in class, that's moved here, that signed with Clemson? And the agent assured him, yes, the same one. But he also assured Jordan Sorrells that Luke had no intention of leaving Clemson, but just thought y'all should be in the loop and check up on him tomorrow. So Thursday, January 15th at 11:45 a.m., just this past Thursday, Jordan came to me, and he told me about the conversation that he had the night before with the agent at 9:49. And so I directed Sorrells, hey, I don't know. I said, who's their GM? He said his name is Austin Thomas. I said, will you reach out to their GM? He said he knows him. And I said, listen, this guy has been a head coach for 4 weeks. I said, you reach out to the GM. I'm going to give him some grace. And you let him know that we know what's going on, all right? And if he doesn't cease communication, I'm going to turn him in. And so I really thought that would be the end of it, but it wasn't. So after that was 11:45. At 12:10, Jordan communicated to Austin Thomas via text because he was unable to reach him on the phone. And just a few minutes later, at 12:14, they both connected on the phone. The Ole Miss GM, Austin Thomas, and Jordan reiterated our stance one more time. The GM assured Jordan that he had communicated to the agent that he wanted no part of this and that his relationship with Jordan was more important to him than Luke Ferrelli, but that Pete Golding just does what he does, quote, unquote. So at 1:30, Sorrells met with Luke face-to-face in his office, and Luke communicated to Jordan and to Ben Boulware that Pete texted him on Wednesday morning, the head coach at Ole Miss, when he was in his 8 a.m. class. And he said, the text message said, "I know you're signed. What's the buyout?" And he also, Luke said that Coach Golding also texted him a picture of a $1 million contract. Luke also mentioned to Jordan and to Ben that Coach Golding had Trinidad Chambliss call him from his phone, and that Coach Golding was there continuing to talk on his phone to push him to re-enter the transfer portal. He also said that Jackson Dart had reached out and called him. But Luke again assured Jordan that he had no intention of leaving. And Jordan kept me in the loop and told me the same thing. So we had a staff meeting on Friday morning, January the 16th, the last day of the portal. At 11:20, Luke called Ben Boulware and told him that Mississippi had reached out again, even though I had kind of let them know the day before, had reached out again, and they had not only reached out, but they had upped and doubled their offer. But Luke told Ben, hey, we're good. And so Ben told Luke to come to the office and see Sorrells and Coach Swinney and let them know, hey, everything is okay. So when that was over, Ben then texted Jordan Sorrells, and he let him know that Ole Miss had raised its offer to 2 years, $2 million. And again, that he had told Luke to come over and see us and let us know that everything is good. So at 11:57, so 11:20, Luke called Ben. 11:22, he texted Jordan this. At 11:57, Sorrells spoke with the agent Ryan Williams about the situation once again. The agent confirmed that head coach Pete Golding had continued to communicate with Luke and had raised the offer once again. Jordan asked to have Luke to give us the text messages that he had received from Coach Golding, but the agent was hesitant to do that because he didn't want to burn any bridges with Ole Miss, as you never know what will happen down the road. However, the agent communicated that if we were to add a second year at $1 million to the already agreed upon deal with Luke, then they would gladly give us whatever we need in order to turn Ole Miss in. Which Jordan appropriately said, no, we're not doing that. He also communicated that Ole Miss Assistant Director of Player Personnel, I guess it's J-A-I, C-H-O-U-D-A-R-Y, Shortery, I'm not sure. But the Assistant Director of Player Personnel was pushing to set up a Zoom call with them to discuss the details of their contract offer. So that was at 11:57, talking to the agent. At 12:30, Sorrells met Luke out in the parking lot outside our football facility, and Luke communicated that he was coming to assure him and Coach Swinney that he wasn't going anywhere. I was not in the building. Jordan called me to let me know what Luke said and for me to reach out to him. I called Luke and didn't get an answer. I'm back at work. I'm in my office. Everything's good. 4:14, Jordan Sorrells comes to see me. He had gotten a call from compliance telling him that Luke is in our compliance office trying to request to re-enter the transfer portal. So Jordan let me know, he let Tom Allen know, called Luke, no answer. At 4:19, Jordan called the agent Ryan Williams again to alert him that Luke had requested to enter the portal. He responded via text to let him know that he was flying. Sorrells texted, Luke just reached out to our compliance and requested to go in the portal. What the heck is going on? The agent's response was, oh, bleep. Let me try and find out. At 4:40, Sorrells and Coach Allen arrived at Luke's apartment. Luke was in the driveway when they got there. His immediate response was, I'm going to Ole Miss. Coach Allen and Jordan spent some time talking to him, and when they departed, he just said, hey, I need to clear my head. At 5:39, Jordan spoke with the Ole Miss GM, Austin Thomas, again to let him know that we knew all that was going on and that we were going to pursue all options to hold them accountable for tampering. And then at 7:20, after a phone call with Tom Allen and Ben Boulware, Luke affirmed his plan to enter the transfer portal, and then he called me and told me the same thing. Once I got word of all this at 4:15 that he was going over there trying to go in the portal, I immediately called our AD, Graham Neff. I also called Commissioner Phillips. He also called the SEC commissioner and others. So, you know, this is obviously a crazy time. We turned everything in to the NCAA. And I'm just going to say this. This is like there's tampering and then there's blatant tampering. You know, tampering 101 is when you're talking to kids who aren't in the portal. Tampering 201 is when you've already negotiated the deal with the kids not in the portal. Tampering 301 is when you got a kid who's gone in the portal, signed somewhere, moved there, gone to classes, and you're texting them while they're in class. That's like a whole nother level of tampering. And it's total hypocrisy because all this is going on while they, on the other side, are trying to fight their defensive end from going in the portal. They have accused publicly others of tampering with their roster and their players while they are over here tampering. All right, so this is just a really sad state of affairs, and it's, to me, we have a broken system. And if there are no consequences for tampering, then we have no rules and we have no governance. It's really just that simple, okay? This is not, let me be very clear, this is not about a linebacker at Clemson. I don't, listen, I feel sorry for I think it's a symptom of a system that you have a kid that I meet at 9:30 and he's, signing the next day. Like I feel sorry for the young man, to be honest with you. I blame the adults. And again, if you want to have adult world, then there needs to be adult consequences, okay? So, but this is not about a linebacker at Clemson. And I don't want anyone on our team that doesn't want to be here. I would never want that, all right? But let me tell you what it is about. It's about the next kid. And it's about the next kid. And it's about the message that is being sent if this blatant tampering is allowed to happen without any consequences. This is about protecting our program. This is about college football. That's what this is about. I stay in my lane most of the time. I've seen a lot of things in my days, and I'm like, hey, man, you just do whatever you're going to do. But here's what I'm going to do. I've always just kind of stayed in my lane and handled my business. And I've stayed focused on Clemson. But I am not going to let someone just flat out tamper with my program. If you tamper with my players, I'm going to turn you in. It's just that simple. And again, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe maybe this isn't tampering. I don't know. Maybe I just need to get some clarification on what tampering is. But I understood tampering to be if someone is signed and in classes and not in the portal, because he's not in the portal, he had to re-enter the portal, then that's the definition of tampering. So if it's not, then my apologies. But that's what I see as tampering. So there's a lot more I could say, but I'm going to let the NCAA handle this, and I'm going to let them do their job. And I'll say this shouldn't be a 3-year or a 3-month investigation. This might take 3 days. They're either going to tell the truth or they're going to lie. It's one of the two. But you ain't got to go, all you got to do is get the phone. This is not complicated. This is very simple. And let me make this clear too. I'm not out to get anybody fired. That's not my objective in this. I'm not out to get anybody fired, but there has to be accountability and consequences for this type of behavior and total disregard for the rules. If this happened in the NFL, which is an actual league with rules, they would be fined. They would take draft picks. They, hit the cap, whatever. Again, I'm not trying to get anybody fired. I just want accountability, and there should be consequences for a total disregard for the rules. And this is such a terrible example. It's a terrible example for young coaches in this profession. And to be honest with you, this is crazy. To me, this situation is like having an affair on your honeymoon. That's basically what we're dealing with. And I know for a fact that this is happening at other places. Because you know why? Because I've had a bunch of coaches over the last week that have reached out to me. And they're going, well, let me tell you what's happened to me. Let me tell you what I know. Let me tell you my story. I've had a lot of people reach out with their stories. And so I want to challenge all of those coaches that have reached out to me. I want to challenge all of them. You need to step up and call it out. Otherwise, don't complain. You either step up and you be an example to young coaches in this profession and be people of integrity, or just shut your mouth and don't complain again. That's what I would say to all the coaches out there. Because I know this has happened. And we're never going to get this under control until we start having some consequences. We're just not. It's just that simple. And listen, one of the responses that came out of Mississippi was this right here. Well, people are calling and texting our guys. That was the response. Well, let me tell you what I know. 2 wrongs don't make a right. That's what I know. And we have a saying in our team room that says right is right even if nobody does it. And wrong is wrong even if everybody does it. Okay? And listen, man, my win-loss record, I may never win another game. My win-loss record is set. This is about this profession. This is about college football. All right? So that's what happened. That's where we are. This is crazy. And it's just another reason why we need change. You can't even sign a guy and go to class and work out and have meetings and even know that that's your roster. You can't sign with the Browns and practice a week, and then the Dolphins call you and say, hey, we're going to give you a little more money, and you say, see you, boys, and you go play for the Dolphins. That's not the real world. And so it's total chaos. We have to fix this chaos that's going on in college football. So that's what happened. That's where we are. And to add a little more context, I'm going to pass it off to our AD, Graham Neff, to speak on it a little further.